Good evening, ladies.
Kavod Harav, how are you?
Thank God. Sorry to make you wait.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, so we were supposed to review this last piece we did. We went through it a little bit fast. So just wanted to go over it one more time.
Kavod Harav, the two halachot, I think, no? And the two halachot, no? Or a
Yes,
halacha? Uh-huh.
yes, it's halacha hey, Sif hey.
Okay.
So it
Yes.
says there, um, first of all, we saw the Rambam that says, Perek Gimel in Laws of Kriyat Shema, Kol mi sheikara b'makom she'en korim bo. The Rambam gives you a general rule, which is that if you read in a place where you don't read there, you're not supposed to read there. So the rule is Choser v'korah, he has to read again. Right, so that's an important thing to know. But we did have last time also an exception to that rule yesterday. What was the exception? The exception was that if there's a doubt about it, whether you can't read there or not, so then b'diavad, after the fact, we say that you don't have to go back and read again because it's a rabbinic doubt. If it's a rabbinic doubt, if it's something is from the Torah, that's a different story. I wasn't talking about that. It's a Torah doubt. That's one thing that we mentioned yesterday, and then we have another piece that we did before that or after that, whatever it was. Anyway, it says here like this: Katala Mordechai besop pek mishemeto. It says the Mordechai something interesting. This halakha is interesting. The reason I wanted to review this is because it seems like there's something to learn from it for our generation as well. So let's read through it again. So it says Amar Afram. There's a Gemara he brings here, right, from the Masechet Brachot. עומד אדם כנגד בית הכיסא בריחוק 4 אמות. So he says a person can stand a distance of 4 amot from the bathroom, the Koreh, and you can read there, the Kriyat Shema. That's the basic idea. So now he says, Nishalti al bnei adam. So it says the Mordechai, they asked him a question. Some people asked him a question, halacha question. Sheyesh dem safsal nakuv bechadram. Okay, so what do they have, these people? They have like an interesting contraption, which today we don't use very much. But the truth is, there are some people who use it. Things like this, for instance, like young children. Sometimes you have something like this for them, contraption like this, and also older people possibly. So what's the common denominator between young and old? They both can hold in their urine, very well. So they need special device, to make sure that they urinate, on the spot, and they don't lose their control and urinate, pee in their pants, as they say, right? Excuse my expression, they don't pee in their pants. So, right, in those days they had this contraption, which was basically like a portable toilet. I remember when I was raising my children, we used to call it the potty chair, whatever. It's like a, for children, for kids, the potty chair, whatever, right? So something like that, but it's not really for children, it's for adults, whatever. That's the way they do it. And they want to have it handy by the bed, just in case they have to go to the bathroom. As we said, right, in those days, they didn't have a bathroom, by the bedroom, there wasn't a bathroom there. You had to go outside somewhere in the field, and God knows what would happen over there in the middle of the night, right? So it was quite dangerous, to go outside like that in the middle of the night. They had no lights, they had no, nothing going on there. So because of that, they wanted to have this portable toilet in the house, right? And use that, in cases of need. So that's what we're talking about here. So it says, right, that there was a hole in there. So what does that mean, there was a hole? In other words, there was a hole on top where you can urinate into that hole, into the bucket, into that, whatever that canister is, right, that you're using, the portable toilet. Okay, so let's go step by step, right? And he says like this, when and they use it, as a portable toilet. They sit on, whatever, they go on it, and whatever. So the question was, are you allowed to lead Kriyat Shema when that portable toilet is right next to your bed? This is the question that he's asking, right? So there's something to learn from this, because as we said, right, it could apply also to our generation in some cases. So anyway, right, he says that what's the story with this? They touted them. So says the Mordechai, I allowed them to read Kriyat Shema with this portable toilet there, right? He allowed it. So he says, I brought a source for them, right? Talmudic source, whatever, right? It says also, I'm sorry, not also, but this was the logic that he used. He said, since there is no excrement on the hole, in other words, where you go inside there, right? There's no excrement there because the excrement goes inside, right? So there's nothing on the top there. So another thing, right? He says that this portable toilet, right, is not, in other words, the canister itself, where it absorbs, where it right holds the excrement, is not right under the hole. In other words, it's like more deep inside there, down deep, whatever, or to the side of it. So this is the two reasons that he gave. Interesting. He says another thing, right? That's really the truth is, whatever I just told you now, it's really one reason. So then he gives another issue. He says that oh, so another thing is, right, that it's always covered, that hole. So in other words, that hole, where they sit there and go there, right, on that thing, what they do is once they use it, they cover it. Oh, right. So this is exactly what we were talking about yesterday, right? Covered toilets, the issue of covered toilets, right? Can you cover it? You can't cover it, right? Whatever, right? We were talking this morning about, do they have it in the jails or not, right? I was talking about this, right, with Shoshana. But either way, right, whether you have it or not, whether you have a cover or not, in other words, either way, whether they supply you a cover from a jail, that's not the issue. The issue is that also you can cover it with your own cover. You can cover it with your own thing. In other words, let's say you have some kind of a board there or something, or whatever, some kind of a piece of cloth or whatever, right? Or some clothing. So what you do is you cover it with your clothing, whatever it is, right? God save us from that, right? But that's the way it is. It's covered. So once it's covered, that's what he's saying over here. And also, there's no excrement there on the hole. So because of these two things, he says, no problem. You can read Kriyat Shema there. So what does that mean? It's covered. Obviously, right? You don't smell it also because, as we said, right? If you do smell it, then there's a problem. There's always a problem with that. It doesn't make any difference which scenario we were talking about. That's the way it is. So this is the reason why the Mordechai says, right, that yeah, it's good. Yeah, you can use this thing. Put it right next to your bed, and make your doodles on it, whatever, right, whatever, and then cover it, and then you can say Kriyat Shema there. So the truth is, that on the face of it, right, just looking at this halacha, it looks like our toilets. This is exactly what our toilets are. Maybe even our toilets are even better. Why? Because we flush it down, and so therefore there's nothing really left there. We flush it down, and if you cover it, so then looks like you're good, according to what we're saying here. You guys have any comments here? Any questions about this issue? I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Anyway, there's an expression. There's an expression in Hebrew. It says, right? Shtika kehodat dama. You know what that means? Silence is like admission. So I guess you agree with me. I don't know if you're being silent. Okay, so whatever it is, right? I hope so. Anyway, right? So what we're saying is like this, as we said, right? These are two reasons why the Mordechai allowed this. So now the Beit Yosef learns from this something, right? He makes a deduction, whatever. He says, "Nireh midvarav, the safsal nakuv zeh din bet kiseh yesh lo." So he says something very, very, very simple, right? It seems from the words of the Mordechai that this portable toilet that people were using in those days, it's basically like a bathroom, like the same thing, has the same din as a bathroom. So he says, from here you see that you do have to distance yourself from there 4 amot. So what does that mean? Just like as we said, right, with a bathroom, you have to distance yourself 4 amot. So therefore the same thing also would apply to this contraption as well. It's like a portable bathroom, basically, right? That's what it is. But once you do distance yourself 4 amot, so then you're good, apparently, right? Apparently you're good. The only question that remains from this discussion that we just had is, when he says you have to distance yourself 4 amot from there, does that also apply when you cover it? Because apparently when you cover it, you really don't need that anymore. Why? Because already Beit Yosef said, right? We saw in the Shulchan Aruch also before, yesterday. He said there, the Shulchan Aruch, that when a person has a bathroom with partitions, right? It's partitioned off, it's walled off, whatever, right? It's closed, whatever, sealed. So we said, right, that you don't have to distance yourself from there. Only a bathroom which is not partitioned. So therefore, since you're closing this contraption, right? You're shutting it. So apparently, that's like a partition and not any worse than that. So then apparently, I'm assuming, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm assuming that that you could read when you cover it, you could read also without a distance of 4 amot. But anyway, we'll look at the Shulchan Aruch and we'll see what we can crown jug, dig up there. See what we can dig up. Okay, so it says in the Shulchan Aruch. So it says here, Bnei Adam sheyesh lehem safsal nakuv v'nifnin alav. Right, again, right? We said that we're talking about people who have this portable toilet, and it's got a hole on top. So that hole, right, is like a little, potty chair, basically, right? Whatever you want to call it, right? As we call it in the kiddie world, right? So they use it as a toilet. So you're allowed to see Kriyat Shema there, next to it. Why? So again, he gives you those reasons, right, that the Mordechai brought. What are the reasons? One is there's no excrement on the hole, right? The gam ena geref tachat hanekeb. And also another thing is that the actual container of the excrement is not under the hole, right? In other words, it's deep down to the side of it, whatever, right? So because of that, he says, yeah, it's okay, right? The odd shenekeb mechuse bedaf. Another thing he says is that because it's covered with a cover. So there you go, right? So it implies from the Shulchan Aruch that if it's covered, he doesn't mention here the issue of 4 amot, right? Why? Because it seems like 4 amot only applies when it's not covered. But once it's covered, it seems like even less than 4 amot. So as we said, right, that I remember when I was, the airline El Al, right, which is the Israeli airline. It's an interesting story with that airline, because like I've been flying that airline for many years, like 30 years plus, right, since I started flying to Israel and whatever. So what I noticed was that it changed hands several times. In other words, it was bought and sold by several companies. It used to be a state-owned airline, the El Al. It used to be owned by the state, the Israeli state. And then they privatized it and so forth and so on, right? So I remember at one time, when it was owned by some company, whatever, might have been the state itself. So there was a special rabbi of El Al, there was a rabbi that they had. So this rabbi was in charge of the halachic issues of the airline, which is the kashrut and all these things, all these issues that have to be dealt with. So I remember, they made like a pamphlet of like guidelines, for travelers, what they have to do in order to use the plane properly, halachically. So I remember what they wrote there in the pamphlet was like this, that if a person wants to wash his hands, and since the only really faucet that you have there, in general, right, there's also another faucet there, but it's used by the staff, So the truth is that the passengers don't usually use that faucet. It's like a kitchenette that they have there, which is used by the staff. Sometimes I used it myself because there was nobody there, so I just went and I used it. But it's not always available to use that kind of a sink. So the only sink you have there is the bathroom. So therefore, right, the rabbi of El Al, right, whatever, right, the chief rabbi, right. So he writes in the pamphlet that if a person wants to wash his hands there, to have a meal, whatever, right. So what should he do? Like go into the bathroom, and cover the toilet, like we just said, right. When you cover it, it's much better. I mean, so because then you don't. It seems like you don't even have the distance 4 amot. Again, right, as we said, you don't smell it; it's covered. So then, what he recommended to do was like this. What you do is, you take your washing cup, right? You wash your hands in the sink, and first you cover the toilet, right? Before you do that, and then you come out of there and you make the blessing outside. You don't want to make the blessing in the bathroom. That's the idea, So this is what we're talking about. So therefore, right, it's the same idea, So it's true, right? It seems like it's true, that a lot of these bathrooms in the jails, they don't have covers. So then what you have to do is cover it yourself. You have to find some kind of a way to cover it, and then if you do cover it, right, then you can say over there Kiyat Shema or blessings or whatever, you have to say a blessing, right? You use the bathroom or whatever, you're drinking some water or whatever, make a shakol. So all these things, right? The way to do it is to cover the toilet. So this is exactly what we're learning over here from this halakha. So this is actually a very important halakha. That's why I wanted to stress this halakha, But also another thing which I wanted to mention about this issue is that when I was reading in the books several years ago, whatever it was, many years ago, that there seems to be a machloket, a dispute between my rabbi Maran Rabbi Shalom and Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul. right? Who was also another big Sephardi rabbi of the generation. So the rabbi Maran Alav Shalom, he says that when you have our bathrooms today, right? We know what they are. So he says that you really shouldn't wash your hands there. You know what I mean? Why is that? Because it's not the same thing as the Persian bathroom that we discussed yesterday. So the rabbi says, what's the difference between the Persian bathroom and our bathroom? Because in the Persian bathroom, it goes down right away, as opposed to our bathroom, it doesn't go down until you flush it. So therefore, he says, right, that because of that, there is some ruach ra, in the bathroom, in our bathrooms. So therefore, you shouldn't wash your hands there. Chacham Ben Sina Bashul, right? He differs with that, and he says that no, our bathrooms have no ruach ra. Why? Because it's just like the Persian one, just like the Persian one, it goes down and it goes, and you can't see it, it's not there, and if you don't smell it, right, then everything, everything is good. And the fact that there's a little bit of a delay, of a couple of seconds until you flush it, he didn't consider that to be something really important. So therefore, he said, right, that it is, you could wash there. But here's the thing, right, that even though we do have, so in other words, basically, you see from there one thing: better not to wash in the bathroom, right? Better to wash, especially when you're washing your hands in the morning after you woke up, because we're talking about ruach ra, and also when you're washing for a meal, right? So the proper thing to do is to wash in the sink of the kitchen sink, right? And not to wash in the sink of the bathroom. But some people tell me that they do it anyway. I don't know. They say they're too lazy. They live like in a duplex. So they don't want to go downstairs. To the kitchen. Blah blah blah. Okay, whatever. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. They don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. But the truth is, I tell them, it's not really proper to wash your hands in the bathroom for these two purposes, as we mentioned, because of this reason. But so where does this come into play, right? This whole thing. But when, as we said, right, when you're on the airplane or you're in jail, right, you really don't have a choice. You don't have many choices. I mean, so sometimes the only choice you have is to wash your hands over there in the jail cell, right, or in the bathroom of the airplane. So the only way to do that, as we said, right, is going to be to cover the toilet, right? Now, another interesting thing, right, which is that, let's say you don't have anything to cover the toilet with. I don't know, for argument's sake, right? Whatever, you didn't cover the toilet. So the truth is, that there's all kinds of issues about that. Whether that's not good, it's good, right? In other words, b'diavad, after the fact, if you didn't cover the toilet, what happens there? So the truth is, there's all kinds of ways to say something, in favor of that. I don't want to get into it now. It's a long discussion, but anyway, right? Because we can say perhaps, that the water of the toilet is the cover. It's covered with water. I don't know, whatever. All kinds of discussions, but anyway, the proper thing to do, right? If you can close the toilet, you should close it. If you want to wash your hands there, right? But the blessing, better to make it outside. But the guy who's in a jail cell, what can he do, right? He's, so when he wakes up in the morning and he has to, wash his hands because of ruach ra, so the only way he can do that apparently is to, is to cover the toilet if he can, and even if he can't cover the toilet, he should wash his hands anyway. The question is, should he make the blessing? I don't know what to tell you. Gotta think about that one. But whatever it is, right? But I think that generally speaking, it is possible to cover it. How do you do it? Take your jacket or something, cover it with your jacket, whatever, whatever. Some kind of, whatever you got there. Okay, so it's not a very pleasant discussion, I don't like to talk about jail cells and right, and excrement, things like this, but what can we do? It's halakha, so we have to, we really got no choice. We got to talk about it. Okay, whatever. So if you have any questions or comments, let me know. I'm going to go on. Otherwise, go to the next chapter. All right. So So now we're going to 84. So it says like this, right, in the Torah. Merchatz chadash shelo rachatzu bo. If you have a new bathhouse and they never bathed there yet, right? You're allowed to read in there. So he just mentioned, right, that we're talking about a new one. As we said, right, yesterday, when they say a new one, it means that it was never used before. This is what it means. And now he's talking about an older one which was used. So then what's the rule over there? Right, so it says b'bayit hachitzon yesh sham kriyat shema utfilah. So let me just explain to you, right, give you a little right, information here before we get into this, because otherwise you won't understand what I'm talking to. That in those days, the way the bathhouse was set up, we're talking apparently about a public one, right? So the way it was set up was like this. There was 3 rooms in there, in this bathhouse, right? Which is like similar to the right, what we have in the mikveh today, you know, like there's like 3 rooms there. You know, like if you remember, you know, if you've seen the Georgian, you know, shul, the way it's set up over there is there's like a reception room, you know, and then there's the fitting rooms, right, where you change, and then there's the mikveh room itself where you actually dunk into the water. So something like that, right? We have 3 different rooms. So the outside room is the one that people are dressed there, right? It's like a reception room, you know. So therefore, over there, says the Torah, you're allowed to read Kriyat Shema there, right? Because everybody's dressed. So it's not a place of like filth or dirtiness or you know, or being undressed there, you know, whatever, disrespectful, whatever, nothing like that. So therefore, the outer room you can read there, and also you can do prayers there. You can do tefillah, right? Amidah. You could put tefillin also there, right? Why not? Ve'esh shelat shalom, right? Also, you can greet your friends, right? Say greetings to them, right? You know, shalom. Tell them shalom, right? Ubet apnimi. And what about the inner room, right? Akol asur. Over there, everything is forbidden. Why? Because that's where everybody's naked there. You know, it's the mikveh room itself, where they dunk into the mikveh, right, or whatever. We're not talking about a mikveh here, by the way. We're talking about a bathhouse, but it's the same thing. The place where the water is, you know, it has the same halacha as a mikveh, right? As the hot mikveh. So over there, in the place where the water is, where people actually bathe, over there you can't do nothing, right? You can't do kriyat shema, you can't do blessings there, you know, and all those things, prayers, right? So this is the reason, by the way, that really when a person goes to the mikveh, right, a woman or whatever, we're talking about a woman or a convert, let's say, right, goes into the mikveh, according to what we just said, they shouldn't do the blessing over there inside that room, right? So where do they do it? So the Rabbi, my Rabbi, he says that they should do it in the dressing room, right? Do the blessing in the dressing room, and then you know, go into the mikveh, right? The convert does it after, and the woman does it before the blessing. That's the only difference. But either way, right? It should be done in the adjacent room, because that room itself, where actually the water is, where they bathe, it's not fitting to make a blessing there. And that applies, by the way, even if it's clean. Why? Because since there's hot water there, it's considered to be like filthy, like a bad smell, whatever. The truth is that there are some mikvahs that are very clean and don't smell. They're very clean. They're very, very nicely kept. The more people that go there, the more crowded it is, the dirtier it gets. I don't want to tell you the details of that, right? Not pleasant to talk about that, but anyway, right? The point is that that's the way it works. So we have the inner room and we have the outer room, right? But there's also like a middle room there, so what goes on with the middle room? So before we get to the middle room, he says like this, right? When it comes to the inner room, where the water is there, if you're wearing tefillin, right, you got to take it off before you go in there, because you can't go in there with tefillin. Not respectful to the tefillin, right? So now that's the inner room. What about the middle room? Yesh shelat shalom. So he says, yesh shelat shalom, v'lo kriyat shema. So you can see in the middle room, you can give greetings to people, you can talk, but not kriyat shema and tefillah, not these things. Ve'eno maniach tefillin. You can't put tefillin there. So why is that? Because in that middle room, the way it was is that some people were naked and some people were dressed. So we're talking like a dressing room there, So it's not totally like clean, because some people are naked, walking around naked there. So therefore, he says in that room, what you should do is it's like in between. The halacha is like in between these two extremes. So what's the halacha? You can say greetings to people. You can't do kriyat shema, can't do tefillah, and you can't put tefillin there, right? But he says if you had tefillin on your head already, you don't have to take it off. Because it's like a middle ground there. It's a compromise there, hybrid, right? Hybrid model there. Okay, so that's the story. That's what it says in the Torah. That's the whole chapter. Okay, so we'll go to the Bet Yosef. That's the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, so says Bet Yosef regarding this. Kol siman zehu beperek kama de Shabbat. So he says this discussion that we're having here, it comes from the first perek of Shabbat, the first chapter. Masechet Shabbat, Yud Amud Aleph. Katvu Arif, and says the Rif, he writes about that there. Yud Zayin Amud Bet. Be'arosh, and the Rosh also, Besop Perek Mishemeto. Over there he writes at the Rosh, which is in Brachot. Be'arambam Perek Gimel Milchot Kriyat Shema. He writes it over there. So they all wrote about this. Perek Darat Milchot Tefillin, also over there. Ve'ita be'Gemara, it says in Gemara, it says Sham, over there, Besop Perek Mishemeto. And also this perek, which is in Brachot, the Merchat Shamu, that the bathhouse that we're talking about here, Sham Adam, even though there's nobody there. But since they already used it one time, so it's considered to be old, right? As we said, once you use it, it's old. Haven't used it yet, it's called new. And even though now you don't have anybody there, mice, but it's disgusting anyway. Baita pnimi, right? So he says, therefore, the inner room and korimbo. We don't read there Kriyat Shema. Because that room was like a bathroom, same din, you know. In other words, it's something dirty there. Even though they took out the excrement, it's the same thing as a bathroom where the excrement was vacated from there. And korimbo. So we don't read there Kriyat Shema. That's the end of the Bet Yosef, very short. Okay, so we'll go to Shulchan Aruch here. So it says Shulchan Aruch like this. Merchatz chadash shelo rachatzu bo. If you have a new bathhouse, wasn't used yet, right? So what's it then? Mutar likot bo. You're allowed to read Kriyat Shema there. And even though we said yesterday, right, that regarding a new bathroom, you're not allowed to read there. So we see, right, that the bathhouse is not as bad as the bathroom. The bathroom is like more disrespectful, you know, even if you haven't used it, but it still has the name of a bathroom. So therefore, we don't say Kriyat Shema lechatchila over there. So then he goes on, but if you're talking about an old one, right? What does it mean old? As we said, right, that you already used it one time. So it says that if you're in the outer room where everybody's dressed over there, right, the reception room, whatever you want to call it, right? Mutar, there you're allowed to read there, no problem. Everybody's dressed. Right? So it says, what about the middle one? The middle room. Some people are dressed, and some people are not dressed there. Yes, sham shelat shalom. So you can say greetings to people, right? But not kriyat shema tefillah. Says the Rama, mutar leharher sham v'divrei Torah. Says you're allowed to think about the words of Torah there in that room, right? But he says the inner one where everybody's naked over there, right? Afilu shelat shalom asur. Even to say greetings is forbidden. And the Rama says also you can't even answer amen there. You know, so pretty much right, anything which is holy you can't do there in the inner room. So what do we get from here? Obviously we got what we got, but there's also an inference here to understand. What I wanted to talk about is the issue that I mentioned before, right, which was several weeks ago. We talked about, remember, I'm going to remind you right now, we talked about the issue of somebody who has a shower right there in his house. So he's allowed to listen to words of Torah in there when he's taking a shower. Remember we mentioned that before? So how does that fit into what we're saying now? Apparently here he's telling you the room that you bathe in there, you're not allowed to think about words of Torah there. That's what the Rama says here. So then what's the story? So you know what the difference is? The difference is that here we're talking about a public bathhouse, and regarding what I told you, we're talking about a private bathhouse. What's the difference? Because the private, shower is not necessarily dirty, right? Usually it's clean there. But when you're talking about a public place where people are using it, and making a mess there, so there, right, it's dirty there, so it's assumed to be dirty. So therefore, the public one, you can't do that. The private one, you could. This would be the application, the way it works with this issue. So what about the mikveh, right? So the mikveh, as we said, right, it's like a bathhouse, has the same halacha. So since the mikveh is usually public, right, people are going there, it's not unless you have a private one in your house. Some people have that, by the way, but some rich people have private mikveh in their house. But since most people don't have that, they go to a public one. So therefore, over there in the room where you immerse into the mikveh, you can't think about words of Torah there because it's a public bathhouse. Okay, that's the story. Good. So I guess we'll go on to the next chapter. Yes. Which is 85. Okay. Hey, hey. So it says this is also important chapter to understand because it applies in several situations in our times as well. It says, "Lo yelech adam b'mavot ha'metunafot v'yaniach yado al piv v'ikad shema v'lo od ela afilu haya koreh ובא צריך להפסיק ואם לא פסק עליו הכתוב אומר וגם אני נתתי להם חוקים לא טובים ומשפטים בל יהיו בהם." What is he saying over here? That if you're passing through, right, some kind of an alleyway, right, whatever, some kind of street there where it's filthy, it's a filthy place. So what does that mean? It smells there, smelly. Like this, if you ever lived in New York, this happens on the subway many times, there are certain places in the subway, like smells bad there, and it's filthy. Sometimes they don't clean it so well. So because of that, right, in a place like that, you can't read Kriyat Shema there if it's filthy. But if it's a clean subway station, there's no filth there, so you could read Kriyat Shema there. There's no prohibition, Just be careful somebody doesn't push you into the tracks. Today that's what they're doing. These crazy people over there. But just watch your balance there. But if it's a clean place in the subway, you're okay. That's fine. But also the subway cars, if the subway car is clean, you got no problem there, But if it's it's filthy there, sometimes I heard that people are coming in there urinating. It happens sometimes, some homeless people coming there, they urinate there, so it's not a clean place, obviously, right? If it smells bad there. So that's what we're talking about, places which are not clean, things like this, right? So you can't say Kriyat Shema there. And even if you were saying Kriyat Shema, you passed by, you got to stop and wait till you get out of there and then continue. That's what we're saying. Okay, very good. So then he goes on. And if he does read, it says over there, right, then I apply this verse to him, right? That it's like criticizing people for not behaving properly, not following the rules, right? So it says the im pasak alav katuv omer, but it says if he stopped reading the Shema just like he's supposed to, then the verse says about him that he's going to have length of days, right? God will give him right arichut yamim, which is longevity, right? So he'll get longevity because he's God-fearing. When he went to a dirty place, he stopped reading the Shema and he waited till he left there and then he continued. So he's a God-fearing man. So God will give him longevity. Okay, very good. So now, right, the question is, he says, pasak Rav Alfas, right? What about once he passes through, right? He's going to start reading the Kriyat Shema again. The question is, where does he start from, right? Does he start from the beginning or does he start from the place where he left off? And so the Rif says he starts from the place where he left off. He doesn't have to start from the beginning. Even if you waited to finish the whole thing. But the Ri says, If you waited until he finishes the whole thing, חוזר לראש, and it goes back to the beginning. בוודאי אחד שהפסיק באמצע, because for sure, right, when a person stops in the middle, below honest, without any unavoidable circumstance, שאם היה רוצה, היה יכול לקרות בהקיימלה, that he could have read if he wanted. So קיימלן שאפילו שעה כדי לגמור את כולה, so then we hold that even if he waited time to finish the whole thing, חוזר למקום שפסק. So then he goes back to the place where he stopped. אבל זה שהוא צריך לפסוק מפני המקום, but here, right, it's a little bit different. Why? Because he had to stop. He can't read there. There's no way for him to read there. שאינו ראוי לקרוא עם שעה כדי לגמור את כולה, so then if he stopped and waited enough time to finish the whole thing, חוזר לראש, and he has to go back to the beginning. וכן בהלל ובתפילה ובמגילה. Same thing also applies to Hallel, right, and Tefillah and Megillah, right, if you're reading the Megillah. So we have a machloket here between the Rif, who says you go back to the place where you left off, even if you waited until you finished, you can finish the whole thing. And the Re says if you have to wait till you finish the whole thing, you should go back to the beginning. That's what he says. Okay, so we'll see in the Shulchan Aruch, right? What's the halacha here? Is it like the Rif or is it like the Re? First, we'll see the Bet Yosef. So let's see what it says there. So it says Bet Yosef, machloket braitot. So it says it's a dispute in two different braitot, right? Yeah. Be'amoraim, also the Amoraim, right? The rabbis of the Talmud. Besop perek mishem metod over there in Brachot, Chav Dal Amud Bet. Upasku kol poskim. So it says all poskim paskin kedivrei ha'oser, like the one who says it's forbidden. So in other words, they all agree more or less that you can't say Kriyat Shema in a dirty place like that, filthy place. So he says not only is it forbidden to read there, it's also forbidden to think about words of Torah there. Asur. We say over there, and also in Perek Kira, which is in Shabbat, right? The Mem Amud Bet. Amar Rabba Bar Barachana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. This rabbi said, Torah. So he says, you're allowed to think about words of Torah in every place, except a bathhouse, in a bathroom. So I'm wondering about Rabbeinu Yonah. He writes in his perek, regarding which we learn in Recital, so he says you shouldn't bless Birkat Hamazon, right, or just in your thoughts, right, by heart. Because a person who's obligated to say blessing and is not able to say it, because his hands are not clean, or he's standing in a place where it's not clean there. For instance, a sick person, that his bed is not clean because he has their urine or whatever. So therefore, he can't really say the prayers, orally. So what should you do? He says, you can just think about it, right? To do it by heart. Or at tefillah, also the prayers that you're obligated to do. Even though you're not really fulfilling the obligation like that, only when you say it, right? It says, but Adonai ira'eh lalevav, right? But it says God sees what's in your heart. In other words, he sees in your heart that you want to do it, you can't do it. So he gives you credit like you did it. He forgives you, whatever. Right? So he says it's possible that we're not talking about dirty hands or makom metunaf, or a dirty place, mamash, like really dirty. We're talking about when the hands are not clean and the place is not clean, but it's not really filthy. About tinuf and by, right, but they don't have really filth there. The ilu lo ya anus. So if he wasn't prevented unavoidably, hayat tzarich lenakot yadav, then he would have to wash his hands, clean his hands, v'hamakom, and also the place. in order that he should be able to say it actually with his lips, right? Move his lips. But now that he's unavoidably prevented from doing that, you're not able to clean them there. So then you're not allowed to say it with your mouth. He says, nevertheless, but you're allowed to think about it, because there's not really like filth there in that place. So that's the way it seems to me. To force this whole thing, in order to reconcile his words. Katav Rabbeinu Manoach. So says Rabbeinu Manoach, Yerushalmi, Aminan de mutar leharher b'divrei Torah b'bet hakiseh. Oh, right. So over there, right, it says we said that you're allowed to think about words of Torah in the bathroom. The bet hakiseh velo b'paliga gemara didan. So it says it's not really arguing with our Gemara, that says you're not allowed to do that. Dechi Aminan asur leharher, because when we say that it's forbidden to think about words of Torah, hanemile b'lechatchila. Klomar l'shum machshavto v'libo lachshov b'divrei Torah. You shouldn't, on purpose, right, intentionally think about words of Torah. But if he's just like doing it from habit, by habit, because he's always thinking about his learning, he's a rabbi, Talmud, he's a Talmid Chacham, he's thinking about Torah all the time, right? And he did it, just by force of habit. Mutar, it's allowed. Who begemara didan? So it says, explain our Gemara. The Garcinan pek tevul yom, because we have in the Zvachim kuf bet amud bet. Amar Rava, says Rava, hi dina me Rabbi Elazar be Rabbi Shimon gamina. So we learned this din from Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon. Bet hakiseh, when it comes to the bathroom, ve'echi avid hachi, says, how do you do that? Amar Rabba bar bar Chana, but didn't this rabbi say, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, named Rabbi Yochanan, but then we say that you're allowed to think about words of Torah any place except the bathhouse and the bathroom, right? So leon so that's the only one. It's there's no other choice. Shani, that's different. Rashi explains leon so. What does that mean? We're talking about somebody who's habitually always thinking about words of Torah. That's something else, So he's always thinking about words of Torah. That's all he has. That's how the real Talmidei Chachamim. That's the way they are. Even they're always thinking about words of Torah, no matter where they are. It's like a constant video that's going in their head. Whatever, just Torah. They say, right, that there was some story I heard. Rav Shach, who was a big Rosh Yeshiva in our generation. He passed away 20 years ago. But anyway, right, they say about him that when he was walking, in Bnei Brak there, that's where he lived. And he was walking to the post office, to do something in the post office, whatever. So he was thinking about words of Torah, as he was walking to the post office. That's the way people are, these rabbis. They're always thinking about words of Torah, no matter where they are. They're very holy people, So that's the way it is. So in a case like that, he says it's okay. What does that mean? In other words, because it's habitual for him. He can't avoid it. But a person shouldn't do it on purpose. What does that mean? To intentionally, think about words of Torah in the bathroom or in the bathhouse, right? As we said, there's a difference between public bathhouse and private bathhouse. Not the same thing. So here we're talking about a public one. Okay. Good. Why is that? Because the public one is dirty. We assume that it's dirty. Right? It's filthy, whatever. Right? But the private one nowadays, right? Our showers are usually pretty clean places. Okay, so it goes on to say, Katav Rambam Pet Gimel Milchot Kriyat Shema. Says the Rambam over there, Velo Kriyat Shema Bilvad. So it says the Rambam, not only Kriyat Shema, Ela Kol Inyan, whatever it is, right? Some holy thing. Shehu Midivrei Kodesh, it's holy, something holy. Asur leomrot bet hamerchatz. You're not allowed to say it in the bathroom, in the bathhouse. Bet hakiseh, in the bathroom. Va'afilu omrot belashon chol. So even if you say it in a foreign language, right? It's not. So you're not using the holy tongue, right? You're not saying it in Hebrew. You're saying it in a different language. This is not only you can't say it, you can't even think about it there. In the bathroom, in the bathhouse. So it says, and we're talking about a place which is dirty, right? As we said, it's a dirty place. So he says that means that you have their excrement or urine, right? Same thing, right? It's forbidden there. So when we're talking about filthy places, right, what does that really mean? We're talking about places where there's excrement and urine there. You know? We're not talking about a place where, there's just mud there, something like that. Mud is, it may be, dirty, but it's not really, smelly so much. So we're not talking about that. Okay, so דברים של חול מותר לאמרם בלשון HaKodesh, but he says mundane words, you're allowed to say them in Hebrew, בית הכיסא, in the bathroom. וכן הכינויים is also when it comes to nicknames, כגון רחום, right? Nicknames of God, like merciful, נאמן, right? The faithful, things like this, attributes of God. מותר לאמרם בבית הכיסא, you're allowed to say them in the bathroom, he says. אבל שמות המיוחדים, but the real names of God, right? The special names of God, והם שמות שאינם נמחקים. Those are the ones that you can't erase them. If you wrote them, you can't erase it. אסור להזכירם. You're not allowed to mention them בית הכיסא, in the bathroom, in the bathhouse. Okay. So then it says yashan in the old bathroom, which means, as we said, right, you used it. Okay, I'm really going over time here, I see. So I guess actually, yeah, we have a couple more minutes. Okay, because we started late, so that's okay. So I'll keep you for another couple of minutes, right? What can you do? You got a tough rabbi. It keeps you late. He also comes late, so have to have full place. Okay, so as we said, right, that that's the way. We're reading the Rambam here. ואם נזדמן לו להפריש מן הדבר האסור בבית המרחץ או בית הכיסא מפריש. So he says, right, that if it's possible for him to separate from something forbidden in the bathhouse, you should do it. Bathroom, ואפילו בלשון קודש, even if it's the holy tongue, ובענייני קודש, and when it comes to something holy, that's what he's saying. ומש כתב, he says, whatever. So now, it says Bet Yosef, he explains, מש כתב, דכל עניין שהוא מדברי קודש, something which is like holy, אסור לאמרו בבית המרחץ. You're not allowed to read in the bathhouse, בבית הכיסא, or the bathroom, ולא לאמרו בלבד, not only to say it, אלא אפילו להרהר בליבו, even to think about it. נתבאר בסמוך, you already explained this, it says. ומש כתב, ואפילו אמרו בלשון החול, and not what he said, that even if he said it, right, in mundane language, right, foreign language, וכן מש כתב דברים של חול, and also words which are mundane, right? מותר לאמרם בלשון הקודש. You're allowed to say them in Hebrew. ואם נזדמן לו להפריש מן הדבר, אסור מפריש. So if he has a chance to separate from something which is forbidden, he should separate, right? פרק קירת. So where is that? That's in the Gemara. ומה שכתב, וכן הכינויים. Also he says that which he wrote regarding the attributes of God, כגון רחום, like merciful, ונאמן, faithful, like things like this, mutar, you're allowed to say them. In the bathroom, you're allowed to say them. Because those are not really the names of God. Where is this coming from? Rab said this in the Shabbat, first parak, Yud Amud Bet. Katuv be'Orchot Chaim. It says in Orchot Chaim. Karasina b'Yerushalmi, that we say in Yerushalmi, Shoalin ilchot bet hamerchatz bet hamerchatz. Oh, look what it says, right? Interesting. That we're allowed to ask laws of the bathroom in the bathroom. In other words, if it pertains to the bathroom, the halachot, you're allowed to say in the bathroom, right? That's what it says. Right? Also, the bathhouse, right? The bathhouse, you can talk about the bathhouse, right? In the bathroom, you can talk about the bathroom. Kehada Rashbi, al masche im Rabbi Meir, amale mahu shenadiach, amale asur mahu shenikaneach, amale asur. Right? So he brings here, right, a conversation that was between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Meir in the bathroom. Divrei Torah, right? What does that mean? They were talking about the laws of the bathroom, so they were allowed to do that. That's what it says. What does that mean? Am I allowed to talk in the bathroom? Am I allowed to do this in the bathroom? What's a better place to ask about that than the bathroom itself, right? So therefore it's allowed, he says. Right? That's what it says in the Yerushalmi. So he says, Ramban Katav, says the Ramban, Katav Mistaba de Gemara Dilan Lo Sharia. But he says, you know what? Even though the Yerushalmi allows this, but he says it seems like our Talmud, the Bavli, right, doesn't allow that. The Ramban says, Ela le'afrushe misura. Only if you're saying it to save somebody from doing a sin, right? If you're doing that, you can do it to save them from doing a sin. But otherwise, you shouldn't even talk the laws of the bathroom in the bathroom. Rabbi Meir lav hachi hava. So he says the truth is that the story that he brought about Rabbi Meir, it wasn't really that way, right? In other words, the version of the story was different, right? Kedamaite Yerushalmi, like it says in Yerushalmi, Ela kedamina beGemara. It's like we say in the Gemara, Dilan, like we say in our Talmud. Perk kira bekash leadiach lo karka amale en medichin. So, okay. All right. So I guess we'll stop there. Yeah, we'll continue next time. B'ezras Hashem. I don't want to keep you too long. We went for an hour. God bless. So we're good. Chazak u'baruch. Be blessed with wealth, health, happiness. See you tomorrow. Be holy and happy. Amen. Amen. All the best.
Thank you, Kol.
God bless.